I confess I'm a mess and I'm just trying to figure life out. Can't believe what you see in this world, it'll feed your doubt. And I've tried on my own, but we weren't meant to do it alone. So come with me, together we'll get free. I confess I'm broken, but I found someone who's making me whole. And what if honesty could be the key? I confess I'm desperate, looking for a place to call home. And if honesty with me could be my key, then with truth I'll lead. And if honesty with me will be my key, then with truth I'll lead. Welcome to the couch.
Hey, Taints and friends, welcome back to Couch Confessions with your host, Adria. I'm super jazzed that you came back to see me or to listen to me if you're on Spotify or Apple Music. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe, follow, like, and share so that you won't miss anything and so that somebody else can be plugged in to the conversation. I appreciate y'all in advance. Thank you. I hope everyone's well. The holiday season is upon us. Thanksgiving is in a day from this, when you guys will see this at least. And wow, I mean, I'm super jazzed. Also, Thanksgiving is at my house. So I'm hosting, and it's making me a little crazy because one, I didn't find out I was hosting until about a week before Thanksgiving. And two, I'm just a little type A. And therefore, I have made about 4 different lists and a schedule for the oven. And I can't wait for these tables to get here so I can put all my stuff on them and do the setup and make sure everything fits and is cozy and looks nice. I've rearranged some furniture because, you know, my house is big enough for me, but it's not quite that large for 12 people to sit down and have a little dinner. So we had to rearrange some things, and that's making me a little crazy because you get used to having your house a certain way, and then looking at it the way that it is right now is really tearing my nerves up. But it's going to be okay. Y'all pray my strength in the Lord. And it's just really funny that all of this is happening because it's actually very on brand for the conversation that we're going to have today. Because I don't think I'm a perfectionist. I don't think I'm OCD or none of those things. However, I do not like things to be less than ideal. And we're going to talk about that. And like this whole life as an idealist, fear of disappointment. Is it really fear of disappointment or what's really behind that? And like, you know, it's okay to get it wrong sometimes. And like, how do you stand in that and not let it give you negative messages about yourself and like all of those things? We're going to chat about it because I struggle. I'm just going to let you know right now. I really do. And I don't think being an idealist is a bad thing. I think that, you know, it has its positives and it has its negatives. And I don't know that I'll ever grow out of that. I think it's just learning how to lean into the more positive parts and to tell the negative parts to hush a little bit. And so like, first I can describe for me how being an idealist shows up. It's really just, you know, romanticizing life and really visualizing like an idealized version of myself or just things around me. I do that very often, and I didn't realize how much I do it until, about a year or so ago. I paid for that good therapy, and she really enlightens the girlies. But I think there's some beautiful things about being an idealist. I think it's indicative of my creativity, and I think the optimism that I have and being able to like see the possibility in things. I think that's really beautiful. I think because I'm an idealist, I have a very strong pursuit of purpose, and moral compass, for lack of a better word. I think that I'm very passionate about my beliefs and my values, and I'm willing to stand 10 toes down for what I believe. I think that's a part of it. And I think that being an idealist in a weird way is also like part of why I'm so empathetic, because seeing people in struggle and the desire to see them on the other side of that, I think is a part of that as well. So again, those are some beautiful parts of being an idealist, but it does get a little ghetto. And I think because I have this like image or idea of how I want something to be, or how my life should be, or how something should unfold, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that to reach the ideal, and this like nagging feeling that I'm never doing enough, or I need to know more, do more, achieve more. It's just more. And that becomes a lot. The judgment and the critical nature sometimes is a little overwhelming, and not just of myself, but also other people, and the lack of patience, again, not just with myself, but with other people. And the other day in therapy, I had an epiphany that I've been saying forever and ever, like, I need to work on my patience. I need to work on my patience. And I was like, you know what? It's probably so hard for me to have patience for other people, or patience for things, like literally anything, sitting on an airplane, waiting to get out off the plane. I mean, tearing my nerve. Like, waiting is that, it doesn't work out for me well. And I have to like tell myself, like, you're practicing patience. Calm down, take a breath, count to 10. Like, it's bad. But I think the reason why I don't have patience for externally is because I don't have patience with myself. And we got to work on that so that it's easier for me to have patience externally for other people and for things. Unrealistic expectations, I think, is another downside of being an idealist. I mean, Club Delulu is real. Club Delulu is real, babes. And it's not well, because sometimes I have unrealistic expectations, especially for other people. I call them invisible expectations. Sometimes I have to check myself before I wreck myself, and number one, communicate my expectations, but number two, be like, maybe that's not realistic. Maybe people can't show up in that way, and maybe that's just not what we need. It's okay. And then I think the last thing that really gets me is envy, and not in the way that you would think. It's not necessarily like envious of what people have or like their circumstances. It's more so, for me, shows up as like, you have something about you that I don't have, and you're able to access certain things and benefits in life that you do, because there's a part of you that you have that I am missing. And that's how that mostly shows up, which is really strange. And I think the thing that made me, or helped me kind of like work through and realize, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Enneagram. I know everyone has different feelings and thoughts about all the things, but I actually like the Enneagram, and my therapist uses it, and she uses it in the lens of Christ, which was really interesting for me to like know and recognize. But anyways, I'm a type 4. So, I think being able to like know what that is and know what those core fears and core beliefs are helped me understand, oh, this is how all of this is showing up for me. So if you've never heard of the Enneagram, I would actually recommend her podcast. I gotta find what it's called. I think it's called Enneagram for the Culture, and it's a really good podcast. She has a quiz on her like site, all the things. Maybe I'll put it in the comments if you're interested in taking it. But yeah, that's a shameless plug for the Enneagram. But anyways, so yeah, that's my life as an idealist. It gets really sketchy sometimes because I think the more I heal, I guess, and the more I snap out of some of the beliefs that I have, we'll get to the more beautiful sides of being an idealist. But when I am unwell, particularly, some of those negative sides, they really show up, and they show up big with, bells and whistles on. So yeah, and I think that being an idealist also makes me very acutely aware of when things are wrong or things are out of place, because I'm so focused on the ideal thing. When it's less than that, or when something's like missing, it's very obvious to me, and sometimes in a jarring way. And I think that has shown up as a fear of disappointment, but I don't know that that's like really what it is. And let me tell y'all, I have conversations out loud to myself pretty much everywhere. I really don't care. I'll be walking down the aisles in the grocery store having a whole conversation with myself out loud, because who else is going to talk to you if you don't talk to you? I also live alone. So like sometimes I'm just in the house having a chat with myself, because why not? And a part of those chats with myself, often they end up in like me having some revelation or epiphany. And sometimes they're really like golden nuggets. And the one that I had most recently was that I don't know if I have a fear of disappointment, or if I just have a fear of being wrong or of doing something wrong, and that therefore I am wrong. And I think because of some of the trauma that I've had in my life, I have a maladaptive belief that there's something inherently wrong with me, or like inherently flawed. And it's only recently that I've been able to recognize in real time how that shows up and really gets on everything. And that's a good feeling to know that, the therapy's working and we're connecting the dots, but also it's very ghetto. Like, I'm here to tell you, therapy's great, but also it's much. It really is much. But I realize now that it's not always the rejection or the disappointment of things like going wrong or not happening the way that I imagined that makes things hurt so bad. It's the narrative that it's reinforcing in my mind that this was destined to be, because I'm no good, basically. And so I think that shows up in me being afraid to make mistakes because of this belief. And I think the belief hasn't only been reinforced by like myself, and experiences that I like go through that I then tell myself that message, but I think also it's unintentionally been reinforced by others. And when you grow up having someone practically dictate your life to you, and how to do what and what you should be and what you should do, it kind of robs you of the confidence in your own decision making and the trusting your gut thing. I also think because I was kind of bad. Maybe I wasn't as bad as I'm imagining, because again, maladaptive belief, but I know I was kind of a bad kid. But I think also when you have grown up being mischievous or being a little bit of a troublemaker and being called bad or being called a liar or being called evil or being called, like, those things are cemented, burned in my brain almost. And I think those things definitely reinforce that negative belief that, again, something's wrong with me. I don't think that's the start of them. I think I know, unfortunately, what the start of that was, but I think over time, the things you experience or the messages people give you, whether directly or indirectly through their actions, like, it definitely has built upon that belief and kind of gave me messages like, nope, that is true. Nope, that is true. Until it's definitely like an uncrossing of wires that has to take place in my mind. And I think how that shows up for me is when things go wrong, from the smallest thing that you could imagine to the biggest, I always find some way to make it my fault. Like, it doesn't even matter if, people objectively can say like, no, they did this wrong, or this situation fell apart because XYZ factors. I'm going to find a way to take accountability somewhere in there. And I think that's like a positive thing to know how to take accountability. But for me, it's like the idea of an overused skill, like, is, girl, sometimes it's not your fault. Now, I just really don't know how to do that very well. We're working on it. I also think, again, we talked about like a little bit of that lack of self-trust or self-confidence, like trusting your own decisions, trusting your own gut. And being an adult is a wild thing for me because, and I see posts like this, but like, it's really true. I want somebody else to do it. I want somebody else to make the decision. Like, you want me to make the decision? No, thank you. I would like for somebody to tell me what to do. Because I'm afraid that I'm going to choose the wrong thing. And I realize it's not just the fear of the consequence of me choosing the wrong thing. It's that if I choose the wrong thing and this goes wrong, it's just one more reason why I am wrong. And that's unfortunate that that's the wires, the way that the messages are wired, but that's what happens in my brain. And like needing that validation for my choices is something that is very real. And I guess I want to give myself grace a little bit in all of this, because I think that I saw a quote and I was like, oh, that's very real and that's very kind. And like, if we think about these very psychological things in a physiological way, like it's very much survival mode. Our brains do a thing, and like if we're personally responsible for the situation, then we feel like we're in control. And if we feel like we're in control, then we can avoid or escape the danger. It's like, again, that fight or flight thing that happens. And so even though ultimately the beliefs that we make up or the accountability that we take may not be correct, it may not be helpful over a long term. Like if I'm blaming myself for everything and reinforcing this negative belief that I have about myself, obviously not helpful in the long term. But in the immediate, my brain, my body is thinking, danger, 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 get control. I can control myself. I can control my actions. So let me take accountability for this situation so that then I can fix me, versus just like sitting with the discomfort of like, ouch, that really hurt. Or like, ouch, that was really disappointing. Or like, ouch, that was really devastating. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. But I think that that's like the part of grace that I can hold on to, because it's like, this is just kind of what our bodies are wired to do, which is why we have to do the work to rewire it the right way. And so that leads me to, how can I confront this fear of being wrong, basically? And like, how can I just like stand in the willingness to be wrong and like not get it right, and like things not go the way that I imagined, and that not mean that I'm wrong, or that not mean that there's not another beautiful possibility on the other side of that. And I think the first thing that I am currently and actively trying to do to combat that, which is working, is two things. I think the power of awareness, and then something called adaptive beliefs. And so the awareness piece, everyone always says like, oh, the first step is awareness. And personally, when people say that, it irks the mess out of me, because like, I'm the type of person, what's the action step? Like, how do we fix it? Like, okay, that's cute, I'm aware. What do we do about it so that it's not here anymore? And I be telling my therapist that, and she be like, that's really cute, but for right now, we just need to have you grounded and regulated, and to be able to recognize when this shows up. So I don't want to discount that that's like a really big step. And I have to remind myself constantly that recognition is a big first step. And it's the key, because in order to really rewire, I've learned that we have to be able to sit with the discomfort of a thing long enough to make it to that healing and that rewiring. So awareness is a really big step. The other thing is the adaptive beliefs. So I've mentioned maladaptive beliefs throughout this conversation, and those are just, I'm not a psychologist, so forgive me. This is probably not the actual definition, but the way that I have thought about it and through the conversations I have with my therapist is basically just a unhelpful belief, a belief that does not ultimately help us meet our needs and doesn't really contribute to our healing or like psychological well-being. And then you have, adaptive beliefs, which are core beliefs that will actually help fulfill our needs, rather than like, reinforcing the negative beliefs that we hold based on the experiences that we've had and the messages that we've received from those experiences. And so, for example, like a negative belief might be like, I'm unsafe in this environment or with these people. And then she'll ask me like, okay, what would you rather believe? And so like my adaptive belief would be, no matter what's happening around me, I'm safe because, you know, God is with me. That's something I would rather believe. And so that doesn't necessarily take away the discomfort of whatever may be happening in that situation that's making me feel unsafe, but I can choose to believe that I have access to safety through Christ. So like, those are the examples. And sometimes she'll ask me like, first of all, sometimes it's hard for me to identify what the negative belief is in the first place. But once I finally do identify the negative belief, sometimes she has to help me also get to the adaptive part, and like making it an I statement versus focusing like on external is like really important too. But it really does help me recognize like my power to shift my beliefs, and it helps me identify what I need in a situation. And I think that works for now until the day that we can ultimately undo the negative belief that I hold altogether and like uncross those wires. But it's like it's a good like baby step to practice. It's been helpful for me, and yeah, hopefully maybe others will find it helpful as well. So I think those two things, the power of awareness, adaptive beliefs, those are two ways that I think like I have started to confront the fear of being wrong or doing it wrong. I think the other thing is just like maintaining the courage to show up and put yourself out there, and like balancing that with humility. Like, you know, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. You can just sit off and try again. Yeah. It's what we need to do. Sometimes you just have to try and try again. And that takes courage. It really, really does. Like, to get up again and again. I think that there's a resilience in that, but I think there's a courage in like, this actually didn't work. But we're going to try again. And that could be anything. Like, that could be your dreams. That could be a career path. That could be a relationship, and maybe not the same relationship. I would not suggest. 10 out of 10. Do not recommend going round and round and round and round in the same circles. I think I mean more so like the idea of trying again in your endeavor to find a healthy, loving relationship. So like not giving up that hope and like putting yourself out there in that regard. I don't want y'all to say, she told me to go back to that man. I did not. Take it from me, sugar. Take it from me. Woo! That's a story for another day. Don't go back to that man. Please. Woo, segue. I just had my mind went back. It's like when the old saints say, when I think of the goodness of Jesus and all he has done for me, my soul, it cries out, hallelujah. Thank God for delivering me. Woo! I just had a flashback of a time, honey. I was going round and round and round on the merry-go-round. Woo! God Almighty. Come on back. I'm coming back. Just give me a second. I'm coming back. Woo. Okay, what was I saying? Try and try again, but not with that man. Let me be serious. Okay, I'm gonna be for real. Try and try again. Have the courage to try again. That's what I'm trying to say. And then I think the other thing in this whole courage to show up and put yourself out there, balanced with humility, is this idea of being strong and wrong, and how that can sometimes be a bad thing. Again, this idea of an overused skill. Yes, have confidence, and it's okay if you're wrong, but also sometimes you know you're wrong and you still be strong. Like, sit down and have a seat. And I think in this world, especially, everyone's perspective, everyone's approach, everyone's way is like the gospel. And I don't know how or why that is just the case. It really tears my nerves up. But sometimes our opinions are just our opinions. And sometimes no one even asks, so shut up. That's mean. But it is what it is. Like, I think being careful of being strong and wrong, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, yes, show up. Yes, try. Yes, put yourself out there. Yes, dream. Yes, go for it. But also, let's have a little bit of wisdom. Let's have a bit of humility in knowing that there's a possibility that like maybe we're not, using the right approach or the right messaging or the right whatever in all the circumstances you could think of. And I think that leads to the other thing is like the maturity to course correct when things do go wrong is going to be another big one. Like sometimes it's just not going to go our way. The Her song, oh my gosh, my brain, I should go on one of those shows that's like, what are they called? The little word song association. Because all I heard when I said that was, sometimes it don't go your way. Sometimes. Okay. My brain is all over the place today. God bless. But yeah, sometimes it's really going to go wrong and you have to just wipe your face and fix it. And that can be hard to do when you're one like me, so sulking in the moment of what went wrong and like taking the blame and like pitying and all of those things. Like I think you have to get out of that at a certain point and figure out how to course correct and how to go a different direction. Because some of that is like ours to own and some of that is accountability that we should truly hold and take. And like that takes, I think, maturity to recognize what pieces are ours to own and how to go about fixing it and making things right and reconciling situations and or just course correcting in general and going a different direction. I think that's really important. And I think the last thing is the acceptance of a reality that you maybe didn't imagine. Like being wrong sometimes leaves room for something better. Being wrong about a relationship, being wrong about a career, being wrong about a city, being wrong about yourself, like it leaves room for more beautiful possibilities to step in. And I think that's really important also. And then it's another way to like control or confront that fear and like telling yourself that, yeah, maybe it's gonna be a disaster in terms of what I was thinking, but like leaving room for the possibility of something greater. And I think that faith really helps me do that because like that's what he's promised anyways, like better than what I could imagine, better than my idealist brain could dream up. And let me tell you, as an idealist, the things that I dream up, they're pretty grand. So imagining something even better than that has definitely been an energizing thing. And I think the closer I grow to God and the more that I grow my faith in him, it has helped me to lean really, really far into that last one. And like accepting that like maybe there's a different reality that's better on the other side of this. And like I'm willing to be wrong about this if it means that there's something else. I'm willing to be wrong if it means that there's something more beautiful on the other side. And I'm willing to be wrong because I know that it doesn't mean I am wrong. And like, that's really going to be the day that I leap for joy is that like when something happens, I don't have to tell myself, hey, Adria, like this doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means this went wrong. And like, it's okay. You can sit in the feelings. You can be feel the discomfort, feel the pain, feel the whatever. But like, these are the other things that we can also have in the midst of this. We can, still have courage to try again. We can accept our accountability and course correct, and we can imagine a better reality than what we saw. So yeah, I feel like I said a lot, but also whenever I do this, I'm always like, did I make any sense? I hope so. Because yeah, that was what was on my heart today. And it was really personal to me. I think a lot of this conversation was maybe more so just me sharing my experience in my journey. And hopefully, people can relate and take some nuggets from that. And I don't know. I feel very energized. I feel very energized in this stage of my life because going back to the whole, it is hard. I mean, it's hard to confront these things and to uncover these things and to like do the deep dives. The work is uncomfortable, but it's also very exciting that I'm like starting to realize and recognize and like have these epiphanies. because I really feel like as someone who struggles to acknowledge her growth, I really feel like I can see myself growing, and it's really exciting. Like, I was telling my friend the other day, I feel like I've lived 10 lives in this 1 year. But like, to even like be able to have this conversation with you all and to talk through this stuff in a coherent way, whereas before, like, you couldn't, I don't know, like, why am I suffering and struggling so bad from someone telling me no, or from this opportunity not working? Like, I could not tell you. But now to know like why things hit me the way that they hit me, let me tell you. I personally believe that everybody in this world should go to somebody's therapy, because big T's, little T's, big trauma is what I mean, or little traumas, all the traumas, all the things, all the life experiences. Yeah, I am a proponent. Go chat to somebody. And even if it's not therapy, sometimes people just need like coaching, something, and I believe that, church, Jesus, the Bible, all of that stuff works as well. But sometimes you need a little more. And I just think if nothing else that you get from me in this entire podcast, like, mental health is wealth, and it matters times 1,000. And I know it can be scary. Also, I don't want to say that flippantly, because I know it can be scary to like do the therapy journey for many reasons. One, especially because of the way that just like mental health is prioritized, I guess, in our healthcare system, or the not prioritized is a better way to say that. Like, it can be very expensive. You can have a hard time finding people who look like you if that's a priority for you. Like, I had very specific criteria for a therapist, and like, it was God, truly. It was the work of the Lord that I found the person that I have. But like, everyone doesn't have that experience. And I've heard people like have negative experiences when they go with someone and like, it's just not well. And so I get that it's like not an easy thing to do, but I would encourage it for majority of people, if not just for like a short period of time, to like work through some things. I think a lot of us walk around thinking we have it, and we don't, sugar. So yeah, that's also my shameless plug. But yeah, I'm willing to be wrong in this season, in this time of life, and maybe forever. I'm willing to get it wrong. I'm willing to not know. I'm willing to make a mistake, and I'm not going to be so afraid of doing things and trying things and making decisions that I'm like maybe like 80% sure about, but not 100% sure. I just made a really big life decision today, actually, at work, and I was scared, honey, but I just had to go for it, and I had to trust myself. And I'm not going to say that I'm not still a little afraid of the aftermath, but I'm going to trust the Lord. And also, it does feel good to know that like I truly made this decision on my own. Like, not to say that I didn't like confide in people about it or like share my feelings, but like, I really didn't get a whole lot of like feedback or input around what I should do. And so, yeah, we're just practicing winging it and go and just stepping out. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm not going to be bullied by my mistakes. I'm not going to be bullied by disappointment and things not working out. And I'm not going to let that keep telling me something about me that's not true. And one day that little fear of being inadequate will disappear. But until then, I'm going to bully that thing right back. So yeah, this has been another episode of Couch Confessions. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope I left you with something to reflect upon. And I encourage you to think about your own confessions that you want to make to yourself and to your situations. Because we are on a journey, friends. And we're doing amazing. You're doing amazing. We're doing amazing. All right. Love y'all. Bye.
Yeah.